Hey, buddy.
Hi, Bob.
Hi. I was going to say it's been a while.
Hi, Nathan.
Hi, Nathan. I was going to say it's been a while. But we both know that's a dirty, stinking lie. It hasn't been that long at all. But, you know, I was thinking we might vary things up a bit this time. You know, we're used to, on What Do You Mean You Haven't Seen, discussing things that mostly you've never seen, and on occasion something I have never seen. But, every now and then you got to try something new. You got to try shake things up a bit. So I thought today, this session would be an excellent time for us to discuss the wonderful phenomena called deja vu, the sensation that you are doing something that you have done before. And by that I mean deja vu, the sensation that you're doing something you have done before. Because truth be told, this is our second stab at this. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll work out fine. But it is the post-Oscar season. The Academy Awards have come and gone. Mostly they came. But it's over. And I said to you, hey, let's do an Oscar discussion. And you said, fuck that shit. I don't want to talk about the Oscars. Oscars are fucking dumb. And I said, nah, man, come on. It's an important thing. It's movie-wise. Let's talk about it. And you know what, man? You had the best, reaction I could have hoped for at that point. You really took what I said to heart. You looked me right in the eye and you said, are we going to make fun of it at least? And I looked I looked right in that eye, in that one good eye you got left, and I said, motherfucker, these are the Academy Awards, the Oscars, the most prestigious night in Hollywood. Of course we're going to make fun of it, because the Oscars are fucking stupid.
They're so stupid.
They're so stupid. But it wasn't always that way. And that's kind of, we could have said this about the Oscars every year for like the last decade. Stupid, 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 stupid. Means nothing. It's bullshit. Why did I suddenly pick this year, of all years, to discuss the Oscars? Well,
because we're trying to run a podcast?
Because we're trying to run a podcast. No, that's bullshit, because we could have done the discussion last year too, and we didn't. Because we didn't give a fuck. I don't even remember who won last year. That's how bad it is now. But, dear listener, you may ask, why are you now deciding to discuss the Oscars this year? And the simple answer to that is, due to these strange circumstances we find ourselves in this, post-COVID world and of media filtered through multiple resources, be it streaming, be it theater, be it rental, be it whatever the fuck.
You can watch movies on Facebook.
You can watch movies on Facebook, on YouTube. Who the fuck cares? You just watch them. And that's a long way of saying that, hey, for the first time in I don't even remember how long, I have actually seen I won't even say a major chunk, a large chunk of movies that have been nominated, and not just for the piddly like bullshit. It's not like, hey, I saw such and such movie that got nominated for best visual effects. Fuck all that noise. No, I've seen big chunks of like the major players, the best picture nominees, man. I've seen them when I usually don't give a fuck. But it was like, hey, my laziness kicked in and I said to myself, oh, I can watch it at home? Oh, it's right here? I had no interest in that piece of shit. Or I had no interest in that random thing. But, hey, you know what? I can watch it at home. I didn't go anywhere. And in fairness, the theater by us kind of sucks balls and doesn't often get a lot of the stuff that you would like to see, even when it's nominated for an Oscar. Because, God forbid, you should put something in there that isn't a big blow-em-up action comic book superhero movie. I like the comic book superhero movies, and yet I even still complain because I would like a balance.
Did they even have the whale?
They never got the whale.
Wow.
Not even when it got nominated. And I even thought maybe like, hey, you know what? Now that it's won, spoilers, Best Actor Academy Award, maybe they'll throw it a bone and be like, hey, maybe we should book it for like a week or so. Nope. Gotta get the 3 more showings in of Avatar, The Way of Water.
It was a big hit.
It was a big...
It won so many awards.
It won so many awards. We'll get to that. But yeah, so that was the impetus of this whole thing is like, hey, you know what? I actually, for once, when making fun of the Oscars or saying, hey, this shouldn't have won, or hey, this should have won, or hey, that person winning is bullshit, or hey, whatever. For once, I sort of kind of in some way know what I'm talking about because I actually saw it and can back up my reasoning for why I think yay or nay. Last year when good old Will slapped me across the fucking face Smith won Best Actor for King Richard, and I could have said like, that's fucking bullshit. I didn't see the movie, so I have no idea. But
on principle.
But now it's like, hey, I've seen him, so I can discuss. And but the main thing is that even with all this, the Oscars are still, for the most part, bullshit. They, it used to be about celebrating. It was about Hollywood celebrating its own. It's, the Academy of Motion Picture Art and Sciences recognizing outstanding achievement from actors, directors, writers, whatever, within Hollywood. It was as close as you could get to inside baseball at the time. And since that time, mainly since it started getting televised, it became less and less about the merit and more about the Nielsen ratings. What is going to make us headlines? What is going to get people to watch? What is going to give us ratings? And that is what the Oscars have evolved to today. But now, my question for this year is, the ones that were nominated, the ones that won, they're good in most cases. I agree with many of the winners, but I have that nagging little voice in the back of my head saying, did they win because they deserved it? Or did they win because it would get them headlines? So, I mean, that's the question that we got is, is there merit in the decisions made this year, or is it just another example of this is going to be a memory? This is going to be a newsworthy event. And that's kind of what I wanted to chat about. I mean, I think we talked about it before. I know we looked it up. Do you remember what year it was that they first started televising the Oscars?
I'll have to
I think it was in the 50s. It was in the 50s. 56 or something?
Yeah. It
somewhere.
Was
you look again.
I'll do the podcast thing.
Yeah, you do the podcast thing. Because my thinking was, like, and I know when we talked about it before, I was saying that, like, prior to television, who gave a shit about the Oscars as far as, like, the public was concerned? Because, you didn't televise it. There was no television at the time. The Oscars began... I forgot to look that up too, but I think it began in like the late 1920s, early 1929. Okay.
I believe so. That's what I just read.
So there you go. Go ahead.
It was first televised in 53.
53. Okay, so there you go. So from 1929 to 1953, it is literally just an event that is happening within Hollywood. And, you don't have it on TV. They're not broadcasting the ceremony on the radio because, unlike dramatic radio, there's not a way that you can really, like, present the Academy Awards on the radio where people can sit by the radio and imagine the stars getting up on stage and holding onto a statue that you can't see. It doesn't matter. So I think back then the most you would get is those newsreels that would play before a movie, and it'd be like, oh, news on the march, Dateline, Hollywood, 1931, such and such nominated for an Academy Award, wins Best Picture of the Year. Oh, here comes, 19... I think it's... I'm fucking this up. 1939.
You got the 50s voice down.
Here comes Jimmy Stewart coming up to the stage to accept his Best Actor Academy Award for the Philadelphia song. I just want to say it's an honor and it's a privilege to be on this stage and to be holding this golden trophy. It's glorious, and thank you, Jimmy Stewart. And then they move on to something else because the newsreels are short. Highlights. You got highlights. So it's probably highlights on the newsreels. You probably get like a listing in the newspaper, and people are in the, hey, it's after the Great Depression. It's like, oh, shit, I just paid 10 cents I didn't have to find out that so-and-so won an award who's making way more money than me. Fucking hell, honey. Well, I guess I'm going to go beg for a job again. All right, Great Depression. Let's move on. So you cut to 1953 is what we said?
Yes.
Okay, so 1953 it starts getting televised. And I don't think it really even, became that big of a deal then. It was just more like, hey, you know what? We can see our stars and we can see the whole ceremony. It's like, but it's still very inside baseball. It's like, as of 1953, hey, you viewers at home, you get to see behind the closed doors of Hollywood. Here's the ceremony you've heard about, but now you get to see the whole thing. But then as time moves on and television becomes bigger and it is a live event, it eventually things start happening. You get events, you get moments that are unscripted, that make headlines. You get the, Brando winning the Oscar for Best Actor for The Godfather, which I still don't agree with. Should have been supporting actor. That's another story for another day. But anyway, winning the Oscar for Best Actor for The Godfather, but not showing up. And then sending that Native American woman to accept his Oscar, and then using that as a platform to talk about whatever she was talking about at the time.
Right.
The one year that David Niven's giving out an award, and some guy streaked across the stage behind him. So somewhere on TV back in the 70s, there was a dick flapping around for one night only. And then when people talk about Oscar moments, they usually talk the stuff that people remember. Every now and then they remember, as time went on, the host and the little comedic bits that they did. People remember the stuff that's funny. People remember the stuff that's horrible for how horrible it was. People remember moments of acceptance speeches, emotional, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And you remember those unscripted moments that, oh, man, I can't believe that happened. And it's just gotten to that point where it's and especially it's ABC that they air on. It's owned by Disney. They want their ratings. They want people to tune in. It's become, and it used to be the joke is like, oh man, hey, the Academy Awards, they started on Sunday and they didn't end until Tuesday afternoon because they were so fucking long. Because every ceremony was lots of musical numbers and sketches and this thing and that thing, and then instead of cutting out that shit, then you started having that inside joke about, it's like the Chappelle Show bit about the wrap it up box.
Oh,
that's what that comes from. Is you're giving the speech, the person who's like, this is one of the greatest moments of their professional and personal life, giving a heartfelt acceptance speech, and in the midst of it, the band starts playing the music to play them off and be like, okay, wrap it up, get the fuck off the stage, we gotta get this over before midnight, and
wrap it up,
gotta wrap that shit up, B. So that's what it kind of becomes, and it feels like over the years it's just devolved and devolved and devolved into petty attempts to get headlines and to get ratings. And I think the issue with the Academy Awards now is that they're trying more they're working their way to try and manipulate moments, because in the last few years at least, the trend seems to be that the Oscars are being remembered not for who won and not for, this great speech that was given, but for the things that they didn't plan on that aren't exactly the greatest. Case in point, do I remember anything that really got nominated last year? Not really. Do I remember what won Best Picture last year? I don't at all. I do remember that Will Smith won Best Actor, but why do I remember that? Because it was 10 fucking minutes after he got up on stage and bitch slapped Chris Rock and then dropped the F-bomb on live TV. And I only remember him winning Best Actor because I'm like, really? You're just going to get up there and give a fucking speech and start crying after you just bitch slap somebody? All right, whatever. Hey. So there was that. And then, either, I don't see, again, I don't remember how many years before that it was. Year before, 2 years before. Oh, Moonlight won Best Picture of the Year. I do remember that.
Yeah.
But not because I remembered the movie. I remember it because it was originally said to be La La Land. Until, as they're already up on stage, starting to give their acceptance speeches for having won Best Picture, you see people behind them scrambling and panicking, going, oh shit, and you realize, oh, they handed the presenter the wrong envelope, and it was actually Moonlight that won. So you had to stop everyone giving speeches and be like, oh no, wait, Moonlight, you won. It's so fucking dumb. Somebody got fired over that shit, I'll tell you that right now. But, like, when the highlights of at least 2 Oscar ceremonies of the last, 4 years, the only thing I can remember are fuck-ups.
Yeah.
That's probably not good.
No.
So when it really comes down to it, I have to wonder, are the moments that are in here, are they real? Or are they being manipulated by the Academy? Is it not that these people aren't deserving, but are they deserving for this performance? Or are they deserving because of the fact that, hey, this is going to be a great moment? It isn't so much like, that was a great performance. It's more like, if this person wins, that's going to be a great moment. So, having said that, let's dive into it. So, I got my my list of nominees and winners pulled up here. And the big one that I wanted to start with, I'm not going through all this technical bullshit and everything. I mean, we could touch on that briefly, but I'll touch on one right now. I know we talked about it before, and this is something that you and I can both concur with because we both seen the movie. All Quiet on the Western Front.
Oh, so good.
Best international movie, I think it won somewhere in here. Whatever the fuck. It's somewhere. But it did win that, best something or other. Where the fuck is it? Stupid piece of shit. Hang on, ladies and gentlemen. We're figuring it all out. Documentary, feature, documentary, sure, yeah, film editing. International feature film. That's right. It's no longer the best foreign language film. It's best international feature film.
Ah, that sounds better.
Sure. So it won best international feature film. Good.
Yeah.
I love that movie. That was really, really good. But more to the point, what I really enjoyed that it won was best score.
Yes. Because
that music, when you hear it at first, you're like, this is weird. This doesn't seem to fit with a World War I period movie. But then it's just like, it fits.
Yeah.
It hits that mood. And, I couldn't hum it. I can't, it doesn't sink into my memory enough because I've only watched the movie once, but I just remember the fact that it stayed with me.
Yes.
I don't normally remember the music from a war film.
Exactly.
So the fact that it lingers is very tough.
But it's not that when you first hear it, you're like, this doesn't fit. It kind of sounds way too modern.
Yes.
But then it's just it goes along and it's so eerie. And then they bring it back every so often.
Yes.
But when they do bring it back,
it's like punctuation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at first you're like, this doesn't fit. But then you're like, oh, this is the best.
And
it absolutely fits.
And it's a weird situation like that. There's very few examples that where it's something that shouldn't work that does. It's like having, which you might not know, but like having the Daft Punk score for Tron Legacy.
Yeah.
Which at first you're like, Daft Punk doing a film score, but then you think about, all right, Daft Punk, and then you think about the world of Tron.
Yeah.
And you're like, actually, and then you hear the score, especially in the context of the movie, and you're like, oh, damn, that
pretty
fits.
Good then. Yeah.
Even stuff like when you watch like Django Unchained, and Tarantino uses a whole bunch of like modern hip hop songs in a Western.
Yeah, he does.
But it works in the context of that movie, so it's fine. Okay, so not to spend too much time on that, but like I was very pleased with that. Down for that. So the fact that it got something was nice. I mean, when we get to the Best Picture nominees, I'll discuss my thoughts on that, but I'm very surprised about the score win. Good.
Oh, did it win any awards for the overdubbing?
That's so fucking stupid.
The English show.
Those who we'll touch on it now because you brought that up. Those who have not seen All Quiet on the Western Front, I highly recommend it. It's very, very good. But be warned, because it is, financed through Netflix, it is available on Netflix to stream. For some fucking reason, they chose to make the default audio option to be the dubbed English language track, which, number one, dub tracks are usually terrible to begin with. Two, it's actually kind of insulting for this movie.
Yeah.
Because even the director behind it was like, hey, this is a German novel. Mm-hmm. It is a novel that was written in German by a German. It is a story about the German soldiers in World War I and the experiences they went through. This is the first time this story is being told by German actors, German filmmakers, German cinema, all this, and it's like, good. And then Netflix dubbed it into English as your default audio option. Fuck all that shit.
The default option.
The default option. So, yeah, I highly recommend the movie, but for the love of God, watch it in the original German. It's poignant. It makes sense because, like they said, it's never been. We talked about it. Yes, the original one from 1930. It's a classic. It's good.
Sure.
But at the same time, every single actor in that movie is either British or American. They don't even attempt to do the German accent. Like I showed you that one scene of them, the teacher, which they duplicate that scene in the new one.
Yeah.
Where the teacher's kind of like rallying up the boys and like, let's join the army. And they do the successive series of shots of each of the boys like standing up I'm going to join, and it literally sounds like that. German teenagers, I'm going to join. Me too. Count on me. I'm not going to be left behind. Like he's fucking Mickey Mouse. No. They've made it twice before. There was that one in 1930.
Okay.
They did it again, I think, in the 1970s, and it was a TV movie starring the guy that played John Boy on the Waltons. So not German. That was a side note, but be warned. It's great, but like make sure you switch to German when you go on there. Anyway, so getting into major awards. So first one to talk about, and again, I'm mainly sticking with ones where I've actually seen a major chunk of what was nominated.
Yeah.
Actor in a supporting role. Okay, so within that category, we have nominated. Ke Huy Quan for Everything Everywhere All at Once, Brendan Gleeson from Banshees of Inisherin, Brian Tyree Henry for Causeway, Judd Hirsch for The Fabelmans, and Barry Keoghan for Banshees of Inisherin. Now, out of those 5 nominees, I have seen 3 of those performances. I did not see Brian Tyree Henry. I don't even know who he is. Sorry. My apologies, Brian. Judd Hirsch, I know who he is. He used to be on Taxi. Good for him. He's also...
Is it a series?
Yeah, sitcom from the 70s. He's also in Independence Day, the original one.
Okay.
I can't remember who he played, but he's in it. And yeah, so I haven't seen either of those. Can't comment. Now, Brendan Gleeson and Barry Keoghan both are nominated for Banshees of Inisherin. Now, both of them are great. I mean, of the two, I might lean more towards Barry Keoghan just because I think that performance just maybe like Brendan Gleeson, he's fine. He's great. But I think like what Barry Keoghan did with his part is has a little bit more oomph to it. But the winner of the category on the night of the Oscars was Ke Huy Quan for Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I do agree with. And for a very simple reason. Again, we talked about this before. I did not know going into that movie that it was a multiverse movie at all. I knew very little about it. I just knew the title. I knew that Michelle Yeoh was in it.
Okay.
I knew that it was weird, and it was getting a lot of like buzz from people that had seen it. I knew so little that I thought it was about time travel.
Yeah.
Because of the vague rumblings I heard and the title Everything Everywhere All at Once. I thought it was like time overlapping or whatever.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah. Nope. Multiverse. Which again, and then when I knew that going into it, I'm like, oh Jesus, a fucking multiverse movie after like we already did Spider-Man. It was great. We did Doctor Strange. It was okay. We're getting the Flash in a couple months. Like how many of these fucking multiverse things? And it's not even multiverse that I know. It's like what is this? The Asian multiverse? I don't know. So. I'm not a racist. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I didn't even realize that Ke Huy Quan was in it until like maybe a few days before. I think maybe when he got nominated, I knew that he was in it. And initially, because I wasn't familiar with his actual like name, I didn't even realize who he was. But we'll get to that. So he won, and I definitely would say deservedly so, because he has to, in that movie, play this very timid, very kind of like almost like a pushover, not very, outgoing, whatever, bland husband. Dorky husband with the glasses. Not like over the top dorky, but just like, yeah, he's an average guy. He's like, yeah, whatever.
I get it.
Whatever.
A cuck.
Yeah. No, wow. Anyway, moving on. And then the whole point in the movie is that with the multiverse is that the version of him from a different universe has learned how to traverse through the multiverse. And instead of just moving from universe to universe, they actually can like possess the body of themselves in another universe. So all of a sudden, timid Ke Huy Quan, husband who's like, oh, what's going on? What's going on? Like if they're getting attacked by people, he's like, oh my God, what's going on? What's going on? Oh yeah. And all of a sudden he gets very stoic.
Yeah.
He does like a little head move thing, like something happened, like he's having a seizure, and then he gets very stoic and he pulls the glasses off like fucking Superman. He's like, let's go. We have to move. Let's go over here. And next thing you know, he's fucking kicking the shit out of guys, and he's taking command. He's like, we got to go here. You've got to do this. You got to do that. And he's like, he's on. And then he's like, oh shit. I need to go check something out. I'm leaving. I'll be back in a little bit. What the hell's going on? How do we get here? Like on a dime.
Yeah.
He has to switch from one variation to the other. And that's hard. That is like a difficult thing. You have to basically, you're playing the same character, but you're playing two completely different variations of the character. It's as if like, it's the idea of like, okay, you're Nathan. You are Nathan right now, who, grew up around here, had a loving family, who did all this, and then, you got friends and everything else. You're who you are now. And then let's say you were suddenly have to portray yourself as a Nathan who, in an alternate universe, you know what? You were orphaned as a child, and you grew up in like a slum, and you were given to a foster family that treated you like shit, and you got very hard, and you got into drugs, and you were like, and all of a sudden you're like robbing people and shit, and you got like a fucking scar on your face, and you're like, ugh, but you still got to be you. Can you do that?
I don't know. The scar sounds pretty cool.
I mean, it does sound pretty cool. But, it's a tough thing for an actor, I would think.
Yeah.
And he pulls it off beautifully. The performance is great, and it is, definitely a supporting actor role. I think it's a deserving win. Now, where I worry about that is because of, and again, this is like the overshadowing thing. Like, is the reasoning for the win legitimate, deserving, and is the reason for the win because of what it means in terms of headlines, history, so on and so forth? And in his case, you got two major things that they got headlines for. One, I believe he's the first Asian actor to win at least that category, supporting actor, and possibly even win any major acting category at the Academy Awards ever. Mm-hmm. Very possibly. And then on top of that, because the Academy loves a comeback story, Ke Huy Quan is better known to myself and kids who grew up in the 80s as Short Round, the kid sidekick from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Hey, no time for love, Dr. Jones! That kid.
I did hear about that.
He's also, a year later after that, because it was Spielberg that did that movie and then produced the next movie he was in, he is the gadget kid Data from the Goonies. So he is a known kid actor from the 80s. And then he, after a few years, fewer and fewer roles, not as many offers, he got kind of fed up with the whole idea of Hollywood and acting. He dropped out of acting, and he basically stayed on in Hollywood working as like, a fight choreographer, stunt coordinator, behind the scenes stuff. Didn't do any acting. Eventually, I believe his wife kind of like encouraged him to get back into acting. And I want to say that this movie is like his first major role, possibly even his first role period that he's had in like 20 years. And he comes out of the gate swinging. he nails that part, and now he wins a fucking Academy Award.
It's a hell of a story.
It's a hell of a story, and it makes a hell of a headline.
Yeah.
But that's the problem, is like, in certain cases, which we'll get to, I feel like the wins are not deserving, and it was done more for headlines. And then in other cases like this, where I feel it's deserved, I worry that it's going to be overshadowed by people thinking like, well, did he just get it because, hey, it's a comeback story.
Right.
It's, you know, it's the kid from Indiana Jones, and he's winning an Oscar. I mean, you could tell, we're jumping ahead, but you can totally tell what was going to win Best Picture when they had Harrison Ford come out to announce the winner for Best Picture of the Year. Why the fuck is Harrison Ford telling you who the Best Picture of the Year is, except to set up a moment where after he says that movie won Best Picture, Ke Huy Quan can be so fucking excited he can get up on stage and give Indiana Jones a huge goddamn hug while he's getting an Oscar, and then they can cut to Steven Spielberg sitting in the audience, whose film was also nominated for Best Picture, but Steven Spielberg standing up in the audience and like fucking applauding with a big smile on his face because, you know, he's the one that gave that kid the start, and it's like he got to watch that kid grown up win an Academy Award. Great headline, great story, but was it deserved? In this case, I would say yes.
Okay.
And that's where we're starting with, is like, you know, this is a weird year.
Yeah.
Are these deserving, or are they, as, you know, one would say, manufactured wins? And on the topic of manufactured wins, let's move on to Best Supporting Actress. As a nice little segue. So here is where we get into a category where I did not agree with the Academy's decision. Not because the actress isn't good, not because she, you know, didn't give a great speech, not that she wasn't deserving of accolades. She has been deserving for years. But do I feel that Jamie Lee Curtis should have won for the performance she gave in that movie? Not really. Not really. But jumping ahead, we're looking at the category. Again, we got 5 nominees. We've got Jamie Lee Curtis for Everything Everywhere All at Once. We've got Angela Bassett for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. We've got Hung Chow for The Whale. Kerry Condon for Banshees of Inisherin. And Stephanie Hsu for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Okay. Now, I cannot speak to Angela Bassett in Wakanda Forever because I still can't bring myself to watch it because I just don't care. You saw it. For those that don't know, Angela Bassett played T'Challa's mother, who's in mourning for the death of her son, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
Is she in a lot of the movie?
She's in most of it.
She's in most of it. Is anything? I mean, I'm sure it's good, because that's another point I want to bring up. But I'm sure Angela Bassett is good.
She's good. She is good.
But is it? You need to give her an Oscar good. Is there anything about that performance that stood out so much that you think like, damn, she deserves an award for this?
No.
Okay.
No, she's good, but I would think if you're going to win an award, like, you can be good.
Yeah.
But I would think the entire project as a whole, the entire movie as a whole, needs to also be good. Maybe. Am I wrong?
I partially agree, but I also disagree.
Okay.
Because I also feel that there's merit to say that someone can be deserving of an award when they give like an exceptional performance. Like, you watch that and you're like, wow.
Right.
And on top of that, you realize that the movie around them isn't very good.
Okay.
So it's like, not only are you really good, but you're bringing your A game to subpar material. So it's like, yeah, you're great. And then on top of that, you're elevating something subpar that you're in. So I would maybe make that argument.
Okay.
But not in this case, right?
No, it's bad. It's a bad movie. I didn't like. I'm sure other people liked it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just I just don't care anymore.
The movie sucks. There's too many Marvel movies. Whatever.
Which is another discussion for another day.
Yeah.
But
go on.
That kind of brings me up to that point. And I would actually put this into the same category as Angela Bassett and Jamie Lee Curtis. It's like, here are 2 established actresses who have been doing great work for years, in some cases decades. They've always been good, and this, not just actors as well, when you get these seasoned veterans who have been in so much and have always been good to the point that like it would be more of a shock if they were bad than to be like, oh, it's like, oh, Jamie Lee Curtis was really good in that movie. You'd be like, oh shit, Jamie Lee Curtis was good in the movie. What a big fucking shocker. I never would have guessed. She's sucked in everything else she's ever been in. No. So like, what is it that will elevate that performance to a point when someone who's already good all the time is so good that you're like, well, this one deserves an award? And it just, I can't wrap my head around it sometimes. Like, it's the old joke of like, there was a time when Meryl Streep, if she even showed up in a movie, she would get an Oscar nomination. Tom Hanks for a while is like, oh, Tom Hanks does a movie. Well, I guess he's going to get another Oscar nomination. It's a drama and it's got Tom Hanks. Fuck, he's going to get nominated. Again, and it's like, are they being nominated because they're deserving of it? Or are they being nominated because of just who they are? And if they win, are they winning for this role? Or are they winning because the Academy is like, hey, you know what? They've never gotten one before. Or like, this is a person who's deserving of an award. They've never gotten one before. We have an opportunity. Is this performance really the one that they should have gotten it for? No, but we'll give it to them for this. So, like, a way to equate that would be, again, the weirdness of some of these awards. Like, remember that there was a year when Johnny Depp got nominated for Best Actor of the Year. He didn't win, but he was nominated for Best Actor of the Year.
Yeah. For
playing Captain Jack Sparrow in the first Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay.
I mean, I love the performance. It's fun, but I'm like, are you really going to fucking tell me that and especially of all the parts that he played up until that point, that's the one that you're going to give him an Oscar nomination for?
Right.
And even he might have thought that. Like, if you notice, like, from Pirates on, there is so many, like, schlocky, pointless movies that he starts making. I can almost see him being like, wait, what movie am I nominated for? Wait, let me get this straight. So I didn't get a nomination for Ed Wood. No, okay. I didn't get a nomination for Benny and June. I didn't get a nomination for Edward Scissorhands. No, okay. Donnie Brasco. No, okay. So what am I being nominated for? Pirates of the Caribbean. For asking where the rum has gone. That's what I'm nominated. You know what? Fuck this. Give me the paycheck and I'm done trying.
Right.
That's what I think in my head. Another great example for me is like Denzel Washington wins Best Actor for Training Day, which again I can't really fully comment on because I haven't watched that in like over a decade. But like, I just remember thinking that performance was way over the top, and I was of two minds on the subject. Is Denzel winning because for once he's just not playing Denzel? Because for the last few, couple of years around that he was just kind of playing the same type of role.
Yeah.
So is it like, hey, we're going to give him an award because he's actually playing something different? Or, again, along the same thing I was talking about before, did Denzel win Best Actor for Training Day? Or did Denzel win Best Actor for having played Malcolm X and not getting it that year? Is it like the Academy's way of apologizing for like, you know what, we should have given it to you back then, but we didn't? Which I can say I actually was browsing through the 4K. I just got up Malcolm X and just watching a couple scenes. And again, I'm reminded, I'm like, fuck, dude, this is a really good performance. This is really good. Like, even to watching the extra features and Spike Lee's like, yeah, he prepared for that for a year. Like, he told his agent, don't take any other work for the next year. I'm preparing to play Malcolm X. And he spent an entire year just prepping and getting ready to play that part. And he fucking nails that part. And even as I was watching, I'm like, he didn't win. I know he got nominated. He did not win. Who the fuck won that year? I looked up. It was Al Pacino for Scent of a Woman. And I love Al Pacino. He's great. Hoo-ah! That movie. That's the one he won for. And I'm like, I don't even fucking remember that movie. And, again, I remember Hoo-ah! He plays a blind guy. Maybe that was challenging for him. I don't know. But again, it's like, it's the same thing. We talked about before, the year that that Edward Norton got nominated for Primal Fear for Best Supporting Actor. He lost to Cuba Gooding Jr. for Jerry Maguire, which, again, nothing wrong with his performance in Jerry Maguire, but not, in my opinion, Academy Award worthy. Both him and Al Pacino, I would say, didn't win for performance. They won for catchphrase. Al Pacino won the Academy Award at the 1992 Oscars for Hoo-wah! And Cuba Gooding Jr. won, Best Supporting Actor Academy Award for Show Me the Money. Show me the money! It's a catchphrase. It's a catchphrase. It's like, it'll get you headlines because it's like, hey, it's a memorable performance, not necessarily because of the performance, but because of like one thing.
Yeah.
And that bugs me.
And then people can go, oh, look, honey.
Yeah.
Look who won.
Oh, look who that one. I know that line. I heard that in the commercial.
Oh, my God, Frank.
They said it on the radio when we were in the car. You remember? Hoo-wah! Hoo-wah! Yeah. The show me the money. Yeah, the guy, the black guy with the bald head. Yeah, he said the line. Well, Tom Cruise said it too. Yeah. But he said it for... We're getting off topic. And that was something else. I thought about this before, and this could go for any category, but like specifically the supporting actor and actress category. It's like, what constitutes like an outstanding performance, and particularly in a supporting role? And the criteria I kind of came up with in my head is like, for me, I think it should be one of two things. Is your performance in an otherwise basic supporting role so good in a certain way, the way that you played it, that you stand out, that people remember your part, whereas if someone else played the same part with the same dialogue, you would have forgotten it the next day? Is there something that you bring to that part that just makes it stand out no matter how short of a performance it is? It could be a few minutes, it could be a few scenes, but is there something that you did that like really like makes the audience take notice? I'd say that is worthy of an Academy Award, at least a nomination. And the other criteria would be, is the performance that you give in this movie supporting? It's not the focal point. It may be short. Is your performance so integral to the plot that if you as a performer don't do this well, the movie around you collapses? Alec Guinness being nominated for playing Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original Star Wars. He's not the focal point of that movie. But without the gravitas of Alec Guinness and him being able to, like, the Force is what gives a Jedi his power. It's an energy field that's surrounded by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together. All that shit about the Force, and teaching Luke about the how to use the Force, and with the blast shield down, I can't even see. How am I supposed to fight? Your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them. All that shit. That is like almost like the glue that holds that movie together. If he doesn't sell you on the concept of the Force and the Jedi, the rest of that movie is bullshit. Falls apart probably. Again, going back to Edward Norton, Primal Fear, without spoiling it because I know you haven't seen it. If his performance in that movie, I will flat out say this, if his performance in that movie does not work and isn't played properly, that entire movie goes to hell. Like that performance, if that role isn't played by someone who can play that part properly, the entire movie is dead in the water. And he nailed that shit, and and that's his first movie role, to my knowledge, at least his first professional movie role. Again, same thing with like Ke Huy Quan. It's not his first, but it's his first comeback role. If you can come out of the gate swinging and nail a part like that, yes, give him the fucking award, not Mr. Show Me the Money.
Yeah.
I don't know. And when you get to the supporting actress, Jamie Lee Curtis, I didn't even know she was in the movie until the movie played. And I'm like, is that Jamie Lee Curtis? What the fuck is she doing in this? She's barely in it, to my recollection, from having only watched it once, but she's not in it a lot. Yeah, she plays a significant part in the plot as like an antagonist, and she does have to play varying versions of her character. But no version that she played stood out to me to the point where I'm like, Jamie Lee Curtis, she deserves an Oscar for this. She's fine, again, as Jamie Lee Curtis always is, but I would never say that it is something where, you know, that was so good that she deserves the statue this year. And again, going back to that point of, is she winning for this, or is she winning because, hey, we probably should have given her one years ago? The weird thing is, like, if I were to take a performance that I've seen Jamie Lee Curtis give within the last, you know, couple of years or so, that I would actually say, like, yes, give her an award for that. People are going to think I'm weird, but I honestly think the 2018 Halloween is what she should have gotten an award for. At least a nomination. Not necessarily saying she should get the trophy, but nomination. And the reasoning for that is because when she comes back in 2018 to play Laurie Strode in that Halloween reboot movie. So it's a reboot. It is a direct sequel to Halloween 1. She has already played this part. And more to the point, she played the part, it was her first part. Her first ever movie role was playing Laurie Strode in the original Halloween 1978. She played it once. A couple of years later, in 1981, they make Halloween 2. She comes back and reprises the role. And it was supposed to be the end of Michael Myers because he blows up at the end. Spoilers. And that was supposed to be it. It was supposed to be 2 movies and done. And that's the movie that they introduced that weird bullshit, you know, controversial change to the storyline where they're like, oh, by the way, guess what? She's actually his sister that... and she was adopted afterwards. She didn't know that she was his sister, and that's why he's actually stalking her because he's going after the other sister and blah, 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 blah. So they give it a familial connection. Okay, fine. 20 years after that, in 1998, they decide, hey, we want to do an anniversary movie for Halloween, and we want to bring Jamie Lee Curtis back to play Laurie Strode. At this point, Jamie Lee Curtis doesn't need to come back and play Laurie Strode. She has gone well past her roots of a scream queen, and she's moved on to acclaimed work. And, you know, she 4 years before that, she did fucking True Lies with Schwarzenegger. She's on the map for a bunch of stuff. She doesn't need to do this shit. Schwarzenegger. She doesn't need to do this shit. But she chooses to because she wants to. She likes the part. She always did. She's very grateful for what it gave to her. And she's like, yeah, let me come back and do it. Now, admittedly, the movie that came out is, it has its moments. It's not the greatest Halloween movie. She's great in it. And again, she's playing Laurie Strode 20 years later. Laurie Strode, whose brother, you know, came back to kill her on Halloween night after having killed her sister 20 years before, when she didn't even know that she had a sister because she was adopted and all this other stuff. And she's dealing with she's a strong woman. She's come out of it better, but she's still haunted by it. She's taken pills to suppress the nightmares. She's overprotective of her son because she wants to make sure that he, you know, nothing ever happens, even though she knows Michael Myers is dead. She's still a very strong person. And when he comes back, she brings the fight to him and they have nice closure and it's done. Okay. 20 years after that, they decide, hey, we're going to do another reboot of Halloween in 2018. But this time we're saying, you know what? Fuck that brother-sister connection. We're going to disregard every sequel to Halloween. We're going to make a direct sequel to Halloween 1. And in this movie, she's not going to be his sister. She is just going to be the random girl that got stalked along with her friends by Michael Myers, and she got the better of him, and that's all. So all of a sudden, Jamie Lee Curtis coming back again, 40 years after the original movie, is not only coming back to play a part that she's already played 3 times before, but she has to play it completely different. Because now she has to take it from a different perspective, where she's like, oh wait, I'm not his sister. I am just like a normal person. And instead of playing the person who's gotten through the trauma and has like made something of her life and is a very strong-willed person who's still plagued by nightmares, but she's, you know, she's her own woman. In 2018 Halloween, she's a fucking basket case. She's an alcoholic. She's petrified that he's going to come back, and she's been keeping her daughter like trained in like weapons and everything in case he comes back. She's been training with weapons. She's been isolating herself. She's been building fucking panic rooms and shit. She is like ready, and she is destroying every relationship in her life because she's so traumatized by what happened that one night 40 years ago. Jesus. That is a completely different way to play that part. And I would say that having to come back to a part that you've played multiple times before and have to completely rethink how to play the part because of what they're trying to do, that's a challenge. Being a supporting actress in Everything Everywhere All at Once, when you have hot dogs for fingers at one point and you're in an implied lesbian relationship with Michelle Yeoh, cool. I don't necessarily think you need an Oscar for that. She's good. She always is. Does she need the statue for that movie? Probably not. Having said that, of those that were nominated, so we already talked about Angela Bassett. We said, no. Again, Angela Bassett, she's great. Speaking of Malcolm X, she was in Malcolm X. She played his wife. She's been making good shit for years. Not for this movie. So Jamie Lee Curtis, she won. I would say no. Did she give a great speech? Yes. Was it a very emotional speech? Yes. Do I necessarily think she should have gotten the award? Probably not. Now, Kerry Condon from Banshees of Inisherin, up until recently, probably would have been my pick.
Okay.
Because her playing Colin Farrell's sister in Banshees of Inisherin, she's really, really good. And again, we talked about this. She's Mike Ehrmantraut's daughter-in-law in Better Call Saul.
Okay.
She's really, really good.
Is she?
And again, like, when you've got Colin Farrell and you've got Brendan Gleeson, you've got Perry Keegan, when she can stand out amongst that, when the movie's not even about her, that's good.
She's good.
She's good.
I gotta watch it, yeah.
Now, you've also got Stephanie Sue, who's nominated for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Again, I don't know if I would necessarily have given her the award either. Of the two, I would have probably picked her over Jamie Lee Curtis because she has a much more challenging part in that movie. But now, having seen The Whale, Hung Chow, she is fucking great in that movie. And there's nothing flashy about it. It's not like in Everything Everywhere All at Once where there's like this, hey, we're playing multiple versions of the same person and all that. And it's not necessarily like, I have this big emotional arc and everything. She has a smaller role in The Whale probably than Kerry Condon in Banshees of Inisherin. But to me, she stood out because the performance is great. It's emotional. It's essential to that movie. It's essential to the other characters because without her, you don't necessarily have the movie, even though she's not the focal point. And I got to throw this out here. It is, I told you about before, there was, because we've been talking about this whole thing of like, equality in the movies and representation and all that, which I'm all for. It's great, it's fine, except when it's forced.
Yes.
And except when you're putting that over what's right for the movie and what's right for the part. Not saying these people can't do the role that you pick, but at the same time, it's like, pick somebody for the role because they're right for the role. Don't have a factor in the back of your mind be like, oh well, we need to check that box. It needs to be it needs to be a woman, it needs to be this, it needs to be Asian, it needs to be black, it needs to be whatever. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
A guy that I saw on the Film Threat YouTube channel, he's an Asian actor, director, he makes movies, and even he brought up a really great point. He's like, the only way that we, by that point I think he was speaking of like the Asian acting community, he's like, the only way that we're ever going to get good parts is either if we write them for ourselves, and if we do, and if we cast ourselves in movies or each other in movies, it has to be just any part. It doesn't do any good for representation if you're casting an Asian actor in a movie that is about like Asian culture.
Yeah.
He's like, I've been making a bunch of movies. I'm casting in this movie. I cast my friends in that movie. And you know what? I haven't played one kung fu expert. I haven't been, in a laundry. I haven't been doing this. I haven't been doing that. He's like, just cast us in a role.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the Asian role. It should be a neutral role. I know we talked about before, like Alien. Mm-hmm. Every part in Alien, the names are so generic. Ripley, Lambert, Parker, Brent, because they're all last names. They're all generically written as last names in the script. And they even said, we wrote it that way because that way it didn't matter. You could just pick the best actor for the part. It didn't matter if it was male or female. Just pick the best actor for the part. They didn't intend to have Sigourney Weaver be, the female heroine of the movie and have it be this groundbreaking thing that it became. It just happened to be that she was the best one that auditioned for the part.
Yeah.
And in the case of The Whale, what I love about it is that Hong Chow is great in her part, and there isn't a goddamn thing in that movie that addresses in any way, shape, or form the fact that she's Asian. One moment, and that's only because of her mentioning a family connection to another character to somebody else who kind of looks confused, and then she goes, "I was adopted," and that's it.
Yeah.
That's the only time in the entire movie that any reference is made to her race, because it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
It could have been that part in general could have even been played by a guy. They could have easily just written it as a character's brother rather than sister, and it would have worked just the same way. Doesn't fucking matter. Mm-hmm. The performance is great, and I love the fact that it's like if she had won, I mean, I'm sure they would have made ties of like, oh, best supporting actor and actress are both Asian actors. Oh, it's historic. It's whatever. It's like, but don't miss the point of the fact that performance is not, because even Everything Everywhere All at Once is about an Asian community and an Asian family. That's part of the plot of the movie.
Right.
This part doesn't have dick to do with the fact that she's Asian. Mm-hmm. And that was so refreshing and nice, because it's just like, hey, they cast her because she's really good.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't need any of that other, bullshit. I don't need any excuses for anything. It's just like, hey, she's good. And if anything, like, of the two, I'm torn between her and Carrie Condon. Again, I think Carrie Condon stands out amongst like really exceptional actors that are in the movie with her, and makes you remember her, even though the movie is technically not about her per se. But at the same time, so does Hong Chow, because the movie's not about her. It's about Brendan Fraser. But again, without her in it, it doesn't have the same effect as it would if she was not in there, or if you got somebody who is less talented to play that same part. So, I mean, that would be my choice there. I may be in the minority, no pun intended. But I mean, come on, I had to. But yeah, I would go with either one of those. And for the reasons I said, it is what it is. Okay, so moving on, and let's stick with the acting categories for now. And then, I mean, again, I'm not going into all the technical shit and documentary, feature, documentary, short. Also because I didn't see any of those. So who gives a fuck? Let's move on. I mean, again, film editing, everything, everywhere, all at once. I mean, sure. I mean, I do have a great appreciation for editing, but like, I couldn't tell you what I think would, like, unless something really stood out to me, I can't tell you what's the best editing. And an argument that's been made before is like, if you're really good at being an editor, if your editing is like spot on and really good, then you shouldn't notice.
Right.
Like, if you notice editing, then it's probably because you're trying to be flashy and you're trying to be creative and you're trying to like draw attention to it. Whereas like proper editing, if it's done right, you shouldn't even notice that it's happening. It shouldn't draw attention to itself.
Yeah, I've never been watching a movie and went, oh wow, this is really well edited.
Yeah, I mean, like a sequence, sure, like a sequence, right. and matching cuts, or like well, we haven't watched it, but like the it's called the match cut in Lawrence of Arabia, when he hasn't gone to the desert yet. And he heard that he's going to the desert, and Lawrence in the movie has this thing about like lighting a match and letting it like burn all the way down to the point where it's about to hit his fingers, and then he blows the match out. And he learns he's going to go to the desert now, and he's like, "Oh, you have a weird sense of adventure." He's like, "No, it's going to be fun." And he holds up the match, and it's like a profile shot, and he's holding up the match that's burning, and he just goes, whew. And as soon as he blows the candle out, it cuts right to a sunrise over the desert.
Okay.
It's nice. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, stuff like that, that's fine. But again, in my opinion, at least, I'm in agreement that like if you're really good at editing, if the editing is really good, you shouldn't notice it. If it draws attention to itself, then that might actually be a problem.
Yeah.
So,
Though have you noticed that if it's like a B movie?
Yeah.
Or like a shitty
Well,
movie.
you can also you'll notice editing too when it's bad editing.
Exactly.
Like if it's like
it's a low budget movie, there's going to be bad editing.
yeah, or if somebody just doesn't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all that. I mean, again, makeup and hairstyling. The Whale won. Yes, Brendan Fraser's fat suit for that is very, very convincing. So yes, I agree. I don't care about best song. I don't care about the documentary short or feature because I didn't see anything. Costume design. Black Panther Wakanda Forever won. Cool. Okay.
One for what?
Costume design.
Okay.
Cinematography. All Quiet on the Western Front, which I actually would agree with because that movie looks fucking beautiful. I want to get that in 4K when it comes out. Animated feature film. I am excited that Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio won, even though I still haven't watched it, but I am very appreciative of the animation style of stop motion.
Yeah.
And like the fact that anyone even still wants to do that today, I'm big in support of that. All right. So then we'll get into actor in leading role. So we've got Brendan Fraser for The Whale. We've got Austin Butler for Elvis. We've got Colin Farrell for Banshees of Inisherin, Paul Mescal for After Sun, and Bill Nye for Living. Those last two, no fucking clue. I know who Bill Nye is. I didn't see the movie. I think I know the name Paul Mescal. I don't know who he is, and I didn't see the fucking movie. So we'll work with the ones I have seen. Colin Farrell, Banshees of Inisherin. It's a great performance. This is a hard category because Colin Farrell is really good in that movie. And again, but another one, like Colin Farrell, when has he not been good? I mean, there's probably been a couple times, but like not probably of his fault, but
right.
He's always solid, especially in the last few years. He knows what he's doing. He's an accomplished, experienced actor. So yeah, would I have given him the Oscar? I don't know. It's a great performance, and it's one of the few Colin Farrell roles where there's like whimsy to it. He's kind of like in certain points very light and very funny, but also while being dramatic.
Okay.
So maybe, but I don't know. Compared to the others, I'm not sure. Now, Brendan Fraser won for The Whale. Would I agree with that? Probably. Now, I mean, I would say of the ones I saw, oddly enough, now that I finished the movie, Austin Butler as Elvis is really fucking good. I'm not a fan of the movie. Because Baz Luhrmann's style, it just gives me a goddamn headache. It's so fast paced and kinetic, and again, like the editing that you notice the editing in that because it's all like, oh, flashy all over the place. Let's go here, let's go. It for me, it's headache inducing. Yeah. And it's so like bright and flashy and whatever else. But that performance from Austin Butler is up there, and for a couple different reasons. He's playing Elvis. It's a biopic movie. Biopic movies are hard. Mm-hmm. Especially for an actor. I mean, even just filmmakers in general, because I thought about this earlier. You make a movie, and a fictional movie usually takes place for the characters over the course of a couple days, maybe a couple weeks, sometimes a few hours. That's the duration of the movie. You're telling a very specific time frame, a time in these people's lives, and you're putting that on screen. When you're doing a biopic, you have to try and encapsulate a person's entire life, or at least a major portion of their life that is known, into like 2.5 hours. And that's really hard to do without it being very episodic. Like, oh, first they were born, then they did this, then they did that, then they did that. And you do a biopic movie, and the other problem is like, yeah, they didn't always necessarily have the same people in their lives all throughout their lives. So you have supporting characters that suddenly pop up and then disappear, and then new ones pop up and then disappear, and then from an acting standpoint, you have to have the person usually playing this character over the span of decades. It's the same actor, and maybe with some varying makeup or not, or costume changes, they have to put it into their mindset to play the person. Hey, this is me playing so and so at 20. Then it's me playing so-and-so at 40. Then it's me playing so-and-so at 60 with makeup on or something. And that's hard to begin with. In a case like this, Elvis, that's really fucking hard. And the reasoning for that, I'll give a good comparison. A couple of years ago, Bohemian Rhapsody. Rami Malek wins Best Actor for playing Freddie Mercury, which the more time has gone by, the more, I've seen that movie and thought about it. Am I as enamored with the performance as I was at the time? Not as much. Not saying it's bad. And yes, when I watch that movie, I don't see Rami Malek. Between the performance and the makeup, I don't see him. Do I necessarily see Freddie Mercury? Sometimes.
Right.
Not all the time.
Right.
It's good. But at the same time, the thing that I think worked in his favor is there are not that many people walking around that do a Freddie Mercury impression or that have played Freddie Mercury before.
Right.
Elvis is Elvis.
Yeah.
Elvis has been played on screen before by other actors. Been played on stage. Kurt Russell played Elvis in a movie that John Carpenter made back in the 70s. Michael Shannon has played Elvis. Many people... Val Kilmer played Elvis. People have played Elvis, and more to the point, and this is where it gets hard. Almost everybody in the world who knows Elvis has their Elvis.
They have their Elvis.
How's it going, baby? I'm coming on down, and whether it's Johnny Bravo, whether it's it's so fucking weird. I'm watching the movie, and there's actually a scene. I know nothing about Elvis's life for the most part. So there's a scene in the movie where he's like hopped up on drugs and everything, and he's got like some hooker or whatever in the hotel room with him, and then she starts freaking out because he starts hallucinating and thinking he's seeing shit, and he's got like a gun, and he starts shooting the TV, and immediately I remembered the one episode of The Simpsons, when Bart and Lisa write an Itchy and Scratchy episode where I forget which one is which, when the cat gets killed and goes up to heaven, and like the head punches through into the TV of the ghost of Elvis up in heaven, and he goes, "Oh, this show ain't no good," and then he shoots the TV. That's where that comes from. But that's what I mean. Like, Elvis is at the point now where he's a caricature. Everybody, hey baby, we're going to Graceland. Since my baby left me, everybody can do, to various levels of success, an Elvis impersonation. Even people that don't really know who Elvis is know what Elvis sounds like. It's like Bela Lugosi as Dracula. Oh, my name is Dracula, and I come from Transylvania. You don't need to have seen that movie to know that performance. Mm-hmm. And now you as an actor are being told, hey, we're going to make a biopic about Elvis. You need to play Elvis. You need to be convincing as Elvis. And in the back of his mind, he's probably like, I need to not be a caricature of Elvis. I need to just be Elvis. Yeah. Not the glossy, bigger than life Elvis. I need to be like who Elvis was as a person. And on top of that, Austin Butler in real life doesn't look a fucking thing like Elvis. Like, when I saw him in interviews and stuff and saw pictures, I'm like, oh shit, that guy doesn't look anything like Elvis. And if you were to pause it and stare at him for long enough in the movie, he really doesn't look like him in the movie face-wise. But, you cut the hair right, you put him in the right costume, and that goes a long way, admittedly. But when he starts talking, when he starts singing, and when he plays these dramatic parts where he's not being like Elvis, like he's doing a really fucking good job. There's a point, spoilers, you get to a part at the end where he's playing like his last live performance before Elvis died. He's reenacting that moment on stage, and they do that kind of cliche thing that they sometimes do in biopic movies that I actually wanted them to do at this point, where you at a certain point transition from the actor in the movie, because you're now at the end of the movie, you transition from the actor you've been watching to real footage of the actual person. Yeah. They did that during that scene. They transitioned from showing footage of Austin Butler playing Elvis in that scene to the actual filmed footage of Elvis at the performance. And it took me a couple seconds to realize that they did it. Really? Because I was so into the performance and he was so convincing at it and good that I didn't realize at first that they'd switched to real Elvis. Huh. I thought I was still watching Austin Butler doing it.
I didn't want to see it at all. Mm-hmm. But
It's
now
long
talking
too.
about
It's
it,
like
kind of.
It's long. It's like close to. It's over 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Which was the
I
other
might
thing for me.
consider seeing it.
And that's the thing is, like, I'm not an Elvis fan. I don't care about the music. It's fine. I've said before that I think my problem with Elvis is the same thing as my wife's problem with the Beatles.
Yeah.
Is that it got played so often when she was a kid that by her parents and whoever else that it just got so overplayed that she just like, it doesn't do anything for me. I think for me, Elvis is the same way. They're like, you heard those songs growing up, and then you're just like, yeah, I get it. Oh, step on my blue suede shoes, Heartbreak Hotel. I also think that for the most part, they all sound relatively the same. Again, I'm not much of a music guy, so I might be wrong, but to me, they sound very, 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 very similar. So it's like, you hear one, you hear them all. I don't care. So it's hard for me to get invested in a movie about somebody that I just don't really give a shit about, but that performance is strong. Now, is that better than Brendan Fraser in The Whale? I don't know. They're both really challenging performances, especially because Brendan Fraser has to play it in prosthetics. He has to play a guy who is that big, and he has to make you believe that it's real and that he's not just wearing prosthetics and everything else. And he pulls it off, and he gives a very like heartbreaking performance and all that stuff. But like, you know, and again, it comes up to the same thing as
going back to earlier.
Yeah.
Like, do you think he won because it was a good performance, or because it makes a really good headline?
And that's the thing.
It's his
like
return.
It's his return. It's already been dubbed. They gave it a name. They're calling it the Renaissance.
Oh Jesus!
I know. So yeah, like is it that, or is it the headlines of like, hey, Brendan Fraser, who at one point was like on top of the world after playing, you know, Encino Man and George of the Jungle, and then he's in the 3 Mummy movies and this thing and that thing, and all of a sudden he drops out of the limelight for years, and but he's back.
He's back.
And he's back with a and hey, on top of that, guess fucking what? The last movie that Ke Huy Quan was in before he dropped out of acting was a supporting part in Encino Man starring Brendan Fraser. So then you can throw that in and be like, oh, the two guys who,
wow,
you know, now they're both. That
kid's a star.
Yeah, that kid's a star. God damn it. I mean, and again, like of the two, you know, Austin Butler. Spencer brought up a good point last night where he's like, hey, Austin Butler, he's got his whole career ahead of him to get nominated again. Shout out to Spencer. It's like he's got his whole career ahead of him to get more awards. He's already shown that he can do really great work. He's going to get more work. He's got other opportunities. How many other opportunities is Brendan Fraser going to get where he's going to get nominated for Best Fucking Actor of the Year?
Yeah.
Who knows? But again, you know, what gets you headlines more? The up and coming kid that you don't really know playing an iconic, you know, real life person, or you know, the actor that you knew from back in the day from kind of schlocky shit, and he's proven I'm not just like George of the Jungle or the guy from The Mummy. I'm an actor. And who's going to give the more emotional speech?
Right.
You know, is it going to be the kid who's just like, oh shit, I got nominated for an Oscar?
Okay,
or is it going to be like the guy who's going to be like, oh my god, I got nominated for an Oscar? Like, you know, it's no coincidence that both Brendan Fraser and Ke Huy Quan fucking cried their eyes out during their speeches, you know, so grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah. It's not going to be the kid who can't drop the Elvis accent.
Yeah, it's
yeah, I thought I saw a headline.
Yeah, it's not going to be like
he's
like, and you know what's going to happen? Like he'll come up on stage and be like, "Oh, thank you very much. God bless and good night." And then some asshole will run up to the microphone after he's leaving and be like, "Elvis has left the." No, check that. That was going to be his part of the speech. He'll get up there, he'll jokingly be like, oh, thank you very much. No, seriously, I appreciate it. Let me thank the Academy. Let me thank my mother, my father, my wife, my agent, this thing, that thing. And hey, just before I go, I'd just like to say, now that this is in my hand, Elvis has finally left the building. And everyone goes, ah! And then he gets off stage, and it's like, oh, look at that shit.
The kid's a star.
That kid's a star. You know, now Tom Hanks can...
So
I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah,
Brendan Fraser won.
I know that, but to you, who rightfully won?
If prior to finishing Elvis, I would have said Brendan Fraser is my choice. Having finished it, I'm kind of torn between the two for the reasons I just mentioned. I'd say they're both equally good, but again, it's like...
What's the better movie?
The better movie is The Whale.
And that's who should have won, because as we agreed upon before...
Right. It's all about the movie that you're in, not about the way you play the part. Yeah.
They both go... They go hand in hand.
Well, that's the thing, too, is like... If I can fully appreciate and enjoy the performance that Austin Butler gives as Elvis, when I don't like Elvis, and it took me like 3 sessions to actually sit through the fucking movie because the movie gave me a headache.
Right.
If I can still really like the performance, what does that say?
Right.
So...
And that's what should matter. It doesn't matter if he's Elvis or a guy in prosthetics.
Exactly. But it's, I don't know, it's a toughie.
It's about the performance.
This is a tough year, man. This is a tough year. It's all I know, man. This is all I know. And on that note, let's move into the best directing category. So we've got, as they're referred to, the Daniels, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, whatever the fuck.
Day-Lewis, I think.
Yes. For Everything Everywhere All at Once, they won. Martin McDonagh for Banshees of Inisherin, Steven Spielberg for The Fabelmans, Todd Field for Tar, and Ruben Östlund for Triangle of Sadness. Didn't see Triangle of Sadness. I don't fucking know. I didn't see The Fabelmans, but again, it's like, it's Steven Spielberg, for Christ's sake. And the thing is, it's Steven Spielberg, for Christ's sake. And the thing is... As far as I know, I don't know very much about The Fabelmans, but from what I've heard, it's a fictionalized story, but it's very much based on Steven Spielberg's life growing up and him becoming a filmmaker. It's not somebody playing Steven Spielberg, but it's like a movie about a kid and a family that's modeled after his life growing up. Which, it's like... Wow. Do you give that guy the award for Best Director for basically directing what was essentially his life? Like, I'm not going to say that's necessarily pretentious because he didn't write it.
What a prick.
But at the same time, it's like, you know, come on. Of all the things you're going to give him Best Director for, it's like, as soon as I heard that, I kept thinking of the, which I don't even know if you've seen the sketch yet, but the movie Antoine Fisher from years ago. Denzel Washington directed it. And then there's like a sketch they did on Chappelle's show, where Chappelle's like, did anybody see Antoine Fisher? That was a great movie. He's like, but the weird thing is, it was directed by Denzel Washington, but it was written by Antoine Fisher, which is kind of deep. Because if I was going to make a movie about myself, the compulsion to lie would be too great. So then he does the sketch of Dave Chappelle, written and directed by Dave Chappelle, and it has like, oh, he's born with like an 8-inch penis, and and then he's like, oh, that was really fun having sex in the shower, Halle Berry. You drained my monster's balls, and then like Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor call him up and are like, we want to say you're the funniest guy that we've ever known. Like, oh, come on, y'all, it's all good. So it's like that whole thing. The only one I can think of off the top of my head where a director directed a movie, a fictionalized account of what's basically his life, that I would be willing to say, yes, that is probably worthwhile to nominate, would be Cameron Crowe for Almost Famous. And the only reason I say that is because Cameron Crowe, at the time he made that movie, was a filmmaker, obviously, because he made the fucking movie. But he'd also been a filmmaker at that point for at least over a decade. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't making a movie about him becoming a filmmaker. He was making a movie about the point when he was a kid who lied about his age and wrote articles for Rolling Stone magazine in the 70s and went on tour with Led Zeppelin and went on tour with the Allman Brothers and went on tour with all these bands.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't consider that the same thing, because that's more like, it's him taking his skills that he's learned as a filmmaker years later and saying, you know what, I had a really unique experience as a kid, and I was around for a lot of like historic shit when it came to music. I want to tell what that experience was like, and I'm going to use my skills as a filmmaker to make that.
Yeah, it's different.
That's fine. But like, hey, Spielberg made a movie about a kid that looks and acts a lot like Steven Spielberg becoming a filmmaker. Cool.
It was Spielberg there? Yeah.
Yeah, because remember he was clapping
was there.
for Ke Huy Quan.
How did his head fit through the door?
He turned it to the side. Okay, so we're on the same page as far as Spielberg, even though neither one of us saw the fucking movie.
And I don't plan to.
And don't plan to. I probably will. Triangle of Sadness. I didn't see it, so I can't comment. Tar. I did see Tar. I'm gonna say no because that was a movie which when we get to Best Picture we'll talk about. Great performance. Cate Blanchett, fucking great in that movie. Movie looks pretty. Movie's very well made. Not the best picture of the year. So, no. Banshees of Inisherin, sure. The Daniels for Everything Everywhere All at Once, sure. Deciding between the two, I honestly don't know. I wish I'd remembered to look it up before I got here. I had been watching on YouTube some old documentary that Martin Scorsese did about like just filmmaking in general and films that he loved growing up. And he put into his words what he felt a director was, what the role of the director was, and it encapsulated it perfectly. And I wish I could remember like exactly what he said, but it was something like, you know, the whole point of a director is that you can be given a bunch of ingredients, but it's up to you as the director to put all those ingredients together and arrange them in the right way that it'll make something great. You can have all the best ingredients that you need, but if you don't know how to cook, your meal's not going to come out very good. Yeah. So, like, I mean, that's not even the analogy he used. I think I just came up with that now.
Wow.
But, like, it's like if you gave... We'll take an extreme case. If you gave yourself...
Okay.
You have a thing for cooking. I've been learning to try and let my hand at cooking. If you gave the same ingredients to you... the same ingredients to me, and the same ingredients to Gordon Ramsay, you're going to get three very different meals.
Damn it, why'd you have to include him?
Of varying degrees of quality. It's all about what you do. So, like, how do you determine who the best director is? Yeah, I think... And the other thing, too, I don't know if I could actually understand if someone were to win Best Director and then their movie not win Best Picture. It doesn't. Yeah. It wouldn't make sense to me.
If it's the best directed, then it means it's the best.
And on the same end, like it bugs the shit out of me when you have a movie get nominated and potentially even win Best Picture and then not either win or even be nominated for Best Director. It still pisses me off about Ben Affleck for Argo. I don't remember. I don't know if he even got nominated for director for Argo, but he didn't win. I know that. But his movie won Best Picture. And it's like, how the fuck do you give Argo Best Picture of the Year, Best Picture overall of the year, and not either nominate or give the directing Oscar to Affleck, who directed the fucking movie? It just seems weird. So, yeah. I don't know. It all kind of goes hand in hand. I don't have a whole lot to say anymore about like directors. So let's get into the real meat of this shit. So
if it's the Best Picture, wouldn't it win all categories?
There's an argument to be made for that too, but
right? It's the Best Picture.
Let's agree on one thing right now before we get into this major category. It's all bullshit. It's all subjective. Yeah. I mean, for some people, the Best Picture of the year of this year is going to be Fast 10. Your seatbelts. Somebody out there, that is going to be their favorite fucking movie of the year.
Oh, man.
That's the other reason why, like, everyone hated the idea that the Academy was going to start doing that category of, like, oh, most popular film of the year. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah, they were going to do it, and then people, like, throw a huge fit, and they're like, all right, never mind. But it's like, you're the fucking Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, and you're going to create a category called most popular film?
It was really popular.
Fuck you.
This is a Teen Choice Awards.
Yeah, exactly. It is the teen. Leave that shit to the Teen Choice Awards and the People's Choice Awards, and then you can fucking nominate, like, Borat can win Best Picture of the Year. I don't know. It's
all right,
it's
so
ridiculous.
so who? Give me the deets.
All right. So let me pull up the list here and let's go through it and see if we agree. All right. So nominations for Best Picture of the Year. We've got Everything Everywhere All at Once, All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar, The Way of Water, The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, The Fabelmans, Tar, Top Gun Maverick, Triangle of Sadness, and Women Talking. Now, this is a very unique year for me because at, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, wait, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We work at a bank. Okay. 10 movies nominated for Best Picture, which has only even been happening for the last couple of years. I think it used to be 5. And then
Wait, who won the Best Director?
The Daniels for Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, okay. All
Which,
right.
whatever. It's fine.
So, Best Picture.
So, out of these 10 nominees, I have only not seen 1, 2, 3. Holy shit, 3. I've seen 7 out of the 10 Best Picture nominees this year, which is insane for me because usually I see like 2 of the Best Picture nominees by the time the Oscars have rolled around. So, I mean, right off the bat, Triangle of Sadness and Women Talking, I got to take that out of the equation because I didn't see them, don't know dick about them, can't say whether they should have won or not. I'm also right off the bat going to say Tar. We already kind of talked about it. It's fine, but that movie is more about performance than about shit. You know what I just realized? We didn't talk about Best Actress.
Oh.
Well, I mean, a lot of the stuff I would have said about Best Actress, it was the same as what we talked about with actor, supporting actor.
If we had any viewers, they'd be so pissed.
They would be so pissed at me for fucking that up. We'll touch on it real quick. So it was Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and she won. Cate Blanchett for Tar. Ana de Armas for Blonde, Andrea Riseborough for To Leslie, I don't know what the fuck that is, and Michelle Williams for The Fabelmans.
Okay.
Michelle Williams, for somebody who used to be on Dawson's Creek, it seems like she's got nominated for an Oscar like 5 fucking times, and it's for The Fabelmans, which, as far as I can tell, is fairly generic, Oscar bait. I don't give a fuck. To Leslie, I have no idea what that is. I don't care. Ana de Armas playing Marilyn Monroe in Blonde.
Yeah.
From what I heard, that movie is kind of terrible. But I didn't see it. I didn't see it. I can't comment. She's hot though, so let's.
I give it to her.
Hey, but you know what? I really like her in Knives Out.
Yeah, she was great.
She's really good in Knives Out. So but that's not the movie we're talking about. So fuck it. So of those movies, the only ones that I've seen the performance were Michelle Yeoh in Everything Everywhere All at Once and Cate Blanchett in Tar. I honestly got to say it's a toss-up because Cate Blanchett is really fucking good in Tar.
Okay.
And I would almost lean more towards that because of the fact that that's like the one thing that I could really recommend out of that movie. I saw it. It was fine. I'll never watch it again. But like that performance is probably the main reason to see it. I wouldn't recommend Tar to anybody to watch based on the story or anything else in that movie. I would base it off of like, you need to see it because that performance is great.
Yeah.
Not because like that movie's really good. So I'd almost lean towards that just because of that fact that the performance is so good that it actually is. I would elevate the performance above the movie. Okay. But again, Michelle Yeoh, she was great. And again, for somebody who mainly made her career early on just being like a Hong Kong action star who then transitioned over to here, she was a Bond girl once. She was in the second Pierce Brosnan Bond movie, Tomorrow Never Dies. Oh. She was, she started off over here with Jackie Chan. She made, it's actually, coincidentally, because we saw the first movie, she was in Police Story 3 with Jackie Chan.
Really?
But Police Story 3 over here in the States is known by just the subtitle of the movie, Super Cop.
Oh, okay.
Came out over in the States sometime in the 90s, I think. But anyway. So, she's good. Again, she's always been good. So, and same thing with Cate Blanchett. It's like, what suddenly stands out? And that's the only reason why I might put Cate Blanchett above her is only because of the fact that, like, yeah, Cate Blanchett is always good. But, like, in this case, it's so good that it becomes the one thing to really recommend out of the movie you're watching. And that movie is based solely around her performance.
Yeah.
If her performance isn't good, that movie is nothing. There's no other reason to watch that movie. That's what the whole movie is based around, is her performance. Okay, so back to the meat and potatoes. So, I didn't talk about writing either. Son of a bitch.
Jesus Christ.
Who gives a shit? We're talking about the one. Oh, gee, Avatar won Best Visual Effects. Suck my dick. Suck my dick. Spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen. I did not like Avatar: The Way of Water.
You found the Na'vi too sexy.
Yeah. That was it. It didn't have anything to do with, dude, bro.
Cuz.
It didn't have anything to do with the fact that, like, Jake Sully in his blue avatar form talking like he's from fucking Brooklyn wasn't really distracting. It had nothing to do with the fact that, like, the generic pointless villain military guy from the first movie who fucking died is miraculously back in this movie, but now he gets to be in a shitty CG body. No, that's not the reason why. It was, you know what the reason why was? You know what the real reason why was? That fucking Tarzan kid. The worst fucking character that has been written into a movie in decades, with one of the worst young actors I've seen in a long fucking time. Fuck, I don't even know the character's name. I just know him as Tarzan Boy because he sucks. He's awful.
Sometimes what I like to do is just bring up Avatar just to hear Bob go off.
Okay, so... We already said Tar, no. Performance, yes. Movie, no. Fablemans, can't comment, didn't see it. Triangle Sadness, Women Talking, can't comment, didn't see it. All Quiet on the Western Front, I would have said was in the running. Of the ones nominated, I would say that is, without saying right away which ones, that is one of the two that I would have said for me would be neck and neck for winning Best Picture of the Year. Now, is it a cliche to have, like, a war movie with a message win Best Picture of the Year or win Oscars or whatever? Yeah. War pictures can often be described as Oscar bait, flat out, because it's guaranteed to, like, stir up feelings and emotions and get people to be like, oh man, like, it's
American Sniper.
Every time a fucking war movie comes out, it's like all of a sudden people are like, oh my god, war is hell. Oh really? Oh shit, you didn't know? I thought, when every other fucking war movie since like the 30s told us that, I figured you would have guessed it, but whatever. No, it's really good. It's really well made. I would say that would have been like one of my top two choices. And we talked about this before. I thought it would have been, again, it's kind of surprising because it would have made headlines. It would have been, to my knowledge, the only instance of a movie, two movies based on the same pre-existing material, the same novel, being nominated and winning Best Picture of the Year. And then technically, if you think about it, this would be the first time that I can recall of a remake being nominated for Best Picture and winning Best Picture when the original also won Best Picture, because All Quiet on the Western Front 1930 won Best Picture of the Year. So you'd have that weird, interesting situation of the American-produced talkie All Quiet on the Western Front from 1930 winning Best Picture of the Year then, and then the German-produced 2022 All Quiet on the Western Front winning Best Picture of the Year now. That would be a very unique situation. It's like up there with Godfather 1 and Godfather 2. Marlon Brando wins Best Actor for The Godfather for playing Vito Corleone. A couple of years later, Robert De Niro wins Best Supporting Actor for playing Vito Corleone. So you have an instance of like two different actors winning in two different acting categories, but for playing the same part. So I think that would have made headlines if that had actually happened. If it had won, I would have been fine. But I think of the two that I would have picked, that would have been like the obvious choice.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I didn't get it. Top Gun Maverick. It wasn't going to get it. It's just not.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, is like, it's a weird thing to say because like there is nothing wrong with Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun Maverick I know we haven't watched it yet, but it is a very, very rare thing. It is a sequel, and not only that, a sequel 30 years later. That is a really good movie just on its own, You don't even necessarily need to have seen the first one to actually enjoy the new one. And it actually is better than the first one, in my opinion. All the performances are pretty good. You know, the acting is fine. The story is pretty solid. The fucking cinematography and all the stuff that the innovations in technology and cameras and, you know, the practical, you know, real planes, real flying and everything. It's fucking great. It brings you in there, but it's not. I was worried when the movie was coming out. I'm like, hey, it's going to be great to watch because that shit looks great.
Yeah.
But I figured, like, oh, that's all it's going to be. It's Tom Cruise and he's going to be flying real jets and that's going to be the draw. And then it turned out to just be really good.
Okay.
Which is kind of rare.
Yeah.
And again, we talked about before that it's one of those rare action movies I've seen where I fully understood and was invested in the final battle, fight, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Yeah.
Because they did a really good job of laying out for you earlier in the movie, here's what the mission is. Here are the parameters. Here are the possible issues we're going to have. We're going to train, we're going to do this, and then we're going to go on the mission. So by the time you got to the mission at the end, I knew exactly what they needed to do. I understood the layout. I understood the objective. I understood the issues they could come across. And then more importantly, when stuff starts going wrong, I knew before they told you that something went wrong. So I'm locked in. Most action movies like that, even the original Top Gun, I've seen that movie dozens of times. Well, maybe a dozen times. I couldn't fucking tell you what the final fight in that movie was about.
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you any moments from it, really. I know it happened, and I know he flew a jet, and he won, but I couldn't tell you what happened. Top Gun Maverick, I can pretty much tell you what happened throughout that entire final mission.
Okay.
Because they were very good about laying that out. So, I mean, all that stuff is great. And again, it's like, you know, if you want to define a great movie as like just an enjoyable experience, you know, it hits all the right, you know, emotional levels. You laugh, you tear up a little bit, you get, you know, excited, you're having fun, you're enjoying yourself, you're watching the movie like a big fucking smile on your face. It's something that demands that you see it in a theater. Fuck yes, totally. Like, even to the fact that he duplicates at the beginning of that movie, the first, like, 2 minutes, the opening credit scene is verbatim. It's new footage, but it is verbatim recreating the opening of the original movie with the same music and everything. And I sat there, and when the movie started and that music kicked in and I started seeing those images, I just had this big fucking grin on my face. I'm like, yes, 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 let's go. Perfect. Is it the best picture of the year? I don't fucking know. I would say if, you know what, I'll go with this. It isn't necessarily the best picture of the year, but it's probably the most enjoyable picture of the year. I'll go with that.
So what was the best picture?
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Now, another nominee was Elvis.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you right now because we already talked about with the best actor thing. No. Again, I'm not a Baz Luhrmann fan. His style is so like in your face, big, bright, and flashy, and super quick cuts and all this like flashy shit. And I'm like,
you're a
and
star.
It gives me a fucking headache. And again, we've talked about this before. Short and sweet. Not everything needs to be upwards of 3 fucking hours. Even a movie about Elvis's life, I understand it's an entire life, but like over 2.5 hours, I don't need that. Which brings us to the two that I would have. Well, I would have said between the two of them, I would have said it would have been either All Quiet on the Western Front or Banshees of Inisherin.
Yeah.
The winner was Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
Now,
that was the movie.
Is Everything Everywhere... Now, again, that's the other thing. Is like, it got nominated for so much and it won so much. It's a little weird if it wins Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Adapted Screenplay, or Best Original Screenplay, Best Editing, Best this, Best that, Best Directors, and then doesn't win Best Picture. That would be fucking weird as hell. But, now, is it the most creative movie of the year? Probably. And I'd say that's a valid reason for it to win, because it is a very unique movie. It's not like anything that you've probably seen before. It has a very interesting story. The execution is great. The performances are great. The one thing that would make me kind of hold back is that movie, by the end, overstays its welcome by about 20 to 25 minutes.
Oof.
At that point, it starts to, like, you were really clever, and you took everything up to a very, like, you're building up to a peak, and you're getting to what seemed to me like a logical conclusion to the movie.
Yeah.
And then you kept going because you got a little bit too into all your weird shit and your multiverse stuff and your family drama stuff. And it's just like, oh, yeah, I'm at the high note. This is where, yes. And then you kept going. And then I'm like, you lost me. If it had ended 20 minutes earlier, I probably would have been like, fuck yeah. That was great. Best picture of the year. 2 hours and 20 minutes. And I'm like, it could have been a solid tight 2 hours and you would have had me. Which then brings me to Banshees of Inisherin. Banshees of Inisherin is, I want to say, either just at 2 hours or just over, maybe like 2 hours and 5 minutes. And that movie, it seems weird that I would think that that's the best picture of the year because it's so simple. But I think almost the simplicity of it is what makes it best because everything kind of gels with that. The story is a simple story. The performances that are servicing that story are great. The direction is perfectly fine. The design of it is great. The way the story is constructed is great. And again, a beginning, a middle, and an end. The ending is somewhat ambiguous. Take from it what you will. Make your own interpretations, but it has its own definitive ending. Not to spoil it, I'm not going to say what it is. I have my own personal headcanon for how I feel things happen after that movie has ended.
Yeah.
I feel like, hey, after the credits roll, if we were able to see what happens next, in my heart of hearts, I feel this happened. And I kind of almost like it better that that's left to interpretation. It's like when you finish Whiplash.
Yeah.
Whiplash ends on a perfect high note where if you had gone 5 more minutes and you showed, definitively what happened next, it would have ruined it.
Yeah.
But instead it's like end on the high note, you're at the perfect point for the characters, and then you decide for yourself how you feel things panned out after that. We don't need to know. But Banshees, it's because it is a small movie. It's just about, like, essentially, I mean, you could argue 4 people, but I mean, really, mainly, it's about 3 people. It is about Colin Farrell, his sister, Carrie Condon, and Brendan Gleeson, his former best friend. And how one of their decision to end a years-long friendship out of nowhere completely changes all of their lives.
Yeah.
And it's so simple because, like, even me saying that isn't a spoiler because it's literally within the first 10 minutes of the movie. It's like, I don't want to be your friend anymore. What the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking? No, but you're my best friend. Not anymore. I don't want to be your friend anymore. What the fuck are you talking about? Why don't you want to be my friend anymore? I don't like you anymore. The fuck are you talking about? I don't like you anymore. And I don't want to see you ever again. That's it. That's the setup of the movie. Colin Farrell wakes up one morning, as he always does, and his routine is to go over to Brendan Gleeson's house, pick him up, they go into town to the pub, and they pound a few, and they chat, they do whatever. And this particular morning, he gets up, and he goes down to, Brendan Gleeson's house, and he's not there. And he's like, oh, what the fuck? Where the fuck's he going? And then he goes down to the pub, and he's not at the pub right away. And then he finally sees him at the pub. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? Where have you been? And he's like, I don't want to see you right now. I don't want to be around you anymore. I don't want to be your friend anymore. And that's it.
I gotta watch this.
Yeah, it's like, what is... And it's so simple and intriguing. I'm just like... At that moment, I'm like, I'm in. Yeah. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Why does he not want to be his friend anymore? And, like, even, like, the reasoning behind it and the way the things play out, yes, it gets, like, kind of weird and crazy. And I realized afterward it's an allegory for something else, and I didn't realize it as I was watching it, and I felt kind of dumb. But at the same time, it's like it's so simple.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things of like, how does one simple act, event, moment, how can one simple thing affect so many people's lives in so many drastic ways? Like that one moment of like, I don't want to be friends with you anymore, changes all three of their lives completely within the course of that movie. It's insane.
I gotta watch it.
Yeah. So it's a long-winded way of saying that I agree with some nomination and winners. Others, I say, fuck all that noise. But yeah, as far as Best Picture, I would have gone with Banshees of Inisherin. I may be in the minority of that. And no one asked me, and no one's going to, because they don't give a shit what I think. But hey, it's been enough that it's been mulling over my mind for a while now, and I needed that outlet. I needed to be able to talk about it, which again is why I'm doing most of the talking while you're just kind of looking at me and nodding. You can't see it, but he is. He's just like, yeah, all right.
Hey, you got to get it off your chest twice.
Yes. Let's hope.
Nah, we good.
We good. All right. Yeah. What time are we at now?
Just about 10 minutes away from 2 hours.
Oh fuck! Then we're good. I got nothing else to say.
Well, actually, there was a lot that I wanted to say. And
well, then go for it.
Right...
Go for it. Let's go. Say what you're.
Everyone, sit down for another 2 hours.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. I don't got anything.
To be continued in part 2.
This is good though.
Yeah, it was good.
How do you feel?
I feel justified in imparting my opinion because for once I won't necessarily say I know what I'm talking about, because who the fuck knows? I might not know what the hell I'm talking about, but at least I can say like, yes, everything I commented on, I saw.
Yeah.
So I'm not basing it off of hearsay. I'm not basing it off of like general opinion from others.
I hate people who do that.
Yeah.
If you're going to do a podcast about these movies, you should actually watch them.
Yeah, and that's why I saw that one movie that we chatted about. But yeah, so I feel like this year I couldn't pass up the opportunity to at least talk about the Oscars, because for once I've seen most of the major stuff that was nominated, which doesn't always happen for me.
Yeah.
So fuck it, why not? That was good.
Perfect.
That was good. I have no idea what comes next. Neither do you, dear listener. So, hey, tune into the podcast. Keep an eye out for the upcoming YouTube premiere. I don't know why I switched over into the sexy
radio
voice.
voice.
Oh yeah. Now we're gonna bring you the hits of the 90s. All the hits. More stars than there are in the sky.
WGRB.
WGRAF. All graph all the time. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, we have a Facebook page. I know I said other things in the past, like we don't have anything.
And then our listeners say, you know what? You gosh darn it, sir, you're a liar. You're a fucking liar,
honey.
Oh. Look, sir, ma'am, I answered your question.
Well, he doesn't usually do this.
I'm just okay. Okay.
Man.
All right.
So, yeah, this was good.
It was good.
Like us on Facebook.
Yep.
We do have an Instagram. We haven't posted anything.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel once it has something on there, and then maybe at some point soon you'll be able to see our ugly ass faces when we're talking. And anybody who might be listening is like, ooh, listen to that voice. I bet he is a hot motherfucker. Spoiler alert: no, not even close. So just be prepared to have your set your expectations low for when the visuals are soon to be. You know, hey, it's like Brendan Fraser in The Whale. He's a professor who teaches his classes via Zoom, and he never turns his camera on.
Oh my god! I gotta see this. That if it's one movie I want to see, it's The Whale.
Yeah.
And it's Banshees of what?
Inisherin.
Inisherin.
Yeah.
The whole time I thought you were saying Vinisherin, and then I thought you were saying Minisherin.
And then you thought I was saying venison, and you're like, now I'm getting hungry. I don't know.
Ed Sheeran.
And maybe if I said it in the Irish accent, it would have worked. And admittedly, yeah, like I can do accents halfway decently, but like I still have that big fucking problem of like I'm trying to do Irish, but it always ends up being Scottish. So I'm like, close enough. Fuck it. Who cares?
I'll start out doing it what little I can. And,
yeah.
It just veers off into something.
And someone's like, hey, he started Irish, it transitioned to Scottish. By the time it was over, it was just British.
It's always British.
And then he goes, whatever. They're all the same. And then you go, wow, that's awful. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is when we said goodbye.